First contact. Zax Leary hovered nervously in Earth's orbit, his research vessels cloaking technology ensuring he remained undetected by the planet's primitive scanning systems. As the lead xenoanthropologist from the Galactic Council of Sciences, he had been tasked with a mission of utmost importance: to determine whether humans, the newest members of the galactic community, had truly transcended their predatory nature. The Council's archives painted a complex picture of humanity. These bipedal creatures had evolved from persistence hunters, using their remarkable endurance to chase down prey until exhaustion. Yet, in a span of mere millennia, a blink of an eye in cosmic terms, they had built sprawling civilizations, developed advanced technologies, and even ventured beyond their home world. Now, as they stood on the threshold of joining the greater galactic community, one crucial question remained. Had humans truly left behind their predatory instincts, or did they pose a potential threat to the delicate balance of interstellar peace? Zax Leary's multifaceted eyes scanned the swirling blue and white orb below. His species, the Orcs, had evolved as prey animals on their home world. Their bodies were lithe and quick, adapted for fleeing rather than pursuing. The very idea of a predatory species achieving spaceflight sent shivers down his spinnerets. With a deep breath that expanded his thorax, Zax Leary initiated the landing sequence. His ship, disguised as an unremarkable Earth vehicle called a van, descended through the atmosphere and touched down in a secluded forest clearing. The xenoanthropologist had spent years studying human languages and customs, preparing for this moment. Now it was time to put his knowledge to the test. Engaging his holographic disguise, Zax Leary stepped out of the ship, now appearing as a middle-aged human male with nondescript features. He had chosen the identity of Dr. Zachary Lee, a visiting sociologist from a distant university. This cover would allow him to observe humans up close without arousing suspicion. As he walked towards the nearby town, Zax Leary couldn't help but marvel at the lush vegetation surrounding him. Earth's biodiversity was renowned throughout the galaxy, a testament to the planet's vibrant and sometimes brutal evolutionary history. The alien researcher reminded himself to stay focused on his mission, not to get distracted by the myriad wonders of this world. The town of Millbrook greeted him with a cacophony of sights, sounds, and smells that threatened to overwhelm his senses. Humans of all ages bustled about their daily lives, their actions a fascinating blend of cooperation and competition. Zax Leary observed groups of humans engaging in what appeared to be voluntary resource exchange in structures called shops. Others hurried along the streets, their faces set in expressions of determination or distraction. What struck the alien researcher most was the apparent lack of overt aggression. He had half expected to see humans constantly at each other's throats, given their predatory ancestry. Instead, he witnessed countless small acts of courtesy. Doors held open, smiles exchanged between strangers, vehicles yielding to pedestrians. Zax Leary made his way to the local institution of learning, known as Millbrook High School. He had arranged, through his false credentials, to observe classes and student interactions as part of his sociological study. As he approached the imposing brick building, a shrill sound pierced the air, causing him to flinch involuntarily. Moments later, a flood of young humans poured out of the building's doors. Zax Leary watched in fascination as the adolescents formed groups, their behavior suddenly shifting from the orderly conduct inside the school to something more primal. A group of males began chasing each other, their movements quick and erratic. For a moment, Zax Leary's heart raced, fearing he was about to witness a violent confrontation. But then he heard something unexpected: laughter. The young humans were playing, their mock chase a harmless simulation of their ancestors' hunting behaviors. Nearby, another group had formed a circle, rhythmically chanting as two individuals in the center engaged in what appeared to be a ritualized form of combat. "Rock, paper, scissors, shoot," they cried, their hands forming curious shapes. The alien researcher made a mental note to investigate this peculiar custom further. As the day progressed, Zach found himself both intrigued and perplexed by human behavior. In the classroom, he observed young minds grappling with complex concepts, their curiosity and intellect evident. Yet during unstructured time, these same youths would engage in rough-and-tumble play that seemed to echo their species' predatory past. One incident, in particular, caught his attention. Two boys, engrossed in a game of make-believe, began to argue over a toy. The dispute quickly escalated, and for a moment, Zach feared he would witness the unleashing of humanity's violent tendencies. Instead, a teacher calmly intervened, guiding the children through a process of conflict resolution. "Remember, we use our words to solve problems," the teacher said gently. "Can you tell me what's happening?" Zach listened intently as the boys explained their perspectives, each feeling wronged by the other. The teacher acknowledged their feelings and helped them brainstorm solutions. In the end, the boys agreed to take turns with the toy, their earlier anger forgotten as they returned to their game. This interaction left the alien researcher pondering. Humans, it seemed, had developed sophisticated methods of managing their aggressive impulses. They didn't suppress these instincts entirely, but rather channeled them into structured activities and taught their young to navigate conflicts peacefully. As the children lined up to return to their classrooms, Zach overheard two teachers discussing the morning's activities. "Did you see Sarah during the predator and prey game?" one asked. "She's usually so shy, but she really came alive out there." The other teacher nodded. "It's amazing how these games bring out different sides of the kids. It's like they're working out something primal, but in a safe, controlled way." Zach could barely contain his excitement at this overheard conversation. The humans were aware, at least on some level, of the evolutionary echoes in their children's play. Yet rather than fearing or suppressing these impulses, they provided outlets for them, using play as a tool for growth and development. During the lunch period, Zach observed another fascinating phenomenon. The children, seated at long tables in the cafeteria, engaged in a complex social dance of food sharing and trading. Some items were clearly prized above others, becoming a form of currency in this miniature economy. He watched as one child, clutching a brightly packaged snack, became the center of attention. Others offered trades, some fair, others less so. The negotiations were intense but largely good-natured. When one student attempted to simply grab the coveted item, they were quickly reprimanded by their peers. "That's not how it works," an older student admonished. "You have to trade fair, or nobody will want to trade with you next time." Zach marveled at this self-regulating system. Even in this microcosm, humans were establishing and enforcing rules of conduct, balancing self-interest with group cohesion. It was a far cry from the brutish, might makes right behavior one might expect from a predatory species. As the school day wound down, Zach found himself reflecting on all he had observed. The children's games, from the overt predator and prey to the subtle maneuvering of lunchtime trades, all seemed to serve a purpose. They were, in essence, a training ground for life in human society. These games taught strategy, teamwork, and the delicate balance between competition and cooperation. They allowed children to explore their instincts in a controlled environment, learning when to pursue and when to yield, when to assert themselves and when to collaborate. Most importantly, Zach realized these interactions were teaching the children empathy. By constantly switching roles, from predator to prey, from winner to loser, from trader to traded with, the young humans were learning to see situations from multiple perspectives. This, perhaps, was the key to how humanity had managed to build complex societies despite their predatory heritage. As he prepared to leave the school grounds, Zach caught sight of a mural painted on one of the building's walls. It depicted a diverse group of children holding hands, encircling a globe. Beneath the image were words that gave the alien researcher pause. "In diversity, we find strength. In understanding, we find peace." These simple words seemed to encapsulate much of what he had observed throughout the day. Humans, despite their predatory past, or perhaps because of it, had developed a remarkable capacity for embracing differences and finding common ground. Zax Leary returned to his hidden ship that evening with a head full of new questions and observations. He was beginning to understand that humanity's relationship with its predatory instincts was far more nuanced than the Galactic Council had assumed. These instincts, rather than being a simple threat, seemed to be a source of strength when properly channeled. One interaction, in particular, caught his attention. A smaller male student was cornered by three larger ones, their body language unmistakably aggressive. Zax Leary tensed, prepared to intervene despite the risk to his mission. But before he could act, another student stepped between the group and the lone individual. "Back off, guys," the newcomer said, his voice firm but not hostile. "You know this isn't cool." To Zax Leary's amazement, the confrontation dissipated. The larger students grumbled but moved away, while the smaller one nodded gratefully to his defender. It was a small moment, easily overlooked, but to the alien observer, it spoke volumes about the complexity of human social dynamics. As the school day came to an end, Zax Leary found a quiet spot to collect his thoughts. He had witnessed kindness and conflict, intellectual pursuits, and instinctive play. The humans, it seemed, were a species of contradictions. Their predatory heritage was evident in their games and occasional aggressive displays, yet they had also developed sophisticated systems of cooperation and conflict resolution. The xenanthropologist realized that his mission would be far more challenging than he had initially believed. Humanity could not be easily categorized as purely predatory or purely civilized. They existed in a unique balance, their ancient instincts tempered by, but not erased by, their remarkable capacity for empathy and reason. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the school grounds, Zax Leary made his way back to his hidden ship. His first day of observation had raised more questions than it had answered. But one thing was certain: the story of humanity was far from over, and its next chapter would have profound implications for the entire galaxy. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, the alien researcher prepared for another day of study. Tomorrow, he would delve deeper into the human psyche, seeking to unravel the mystery of a species that had climbed from the role of hunter to the cusp of interstellar civilization, all while carrying the echoes of their predatory past within them. Observing the playground, dawn broke over Millbrook, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. Zax Leary, still disguised as Dr. Zachary Lee, arrived at the local elementary school well before the first bell. He had decided to focus his observations on younger humans today, hoping to gain insight into how their innate behaviors manifested before the full weight of societal expectations took hold. The school's playground was a colorful assortment of structures that, to the aliens' eyes, resembled nothing so much as a training ground for young predators. There were platforms for climbing, bars for swinging, and open spaces for running. Zax Leary couldn't help but draw parallels to the hunting grounds of apex predators on various worlds he had studied. As the children began to arrive, the playground came alive with a flurry of activity. Zax Leary watched, fascinated, as small groups formed and dissolved, each engaged in different forms of play. He focused on one group in particular, a mixed-gender collection of about 8 children who seemed to be organizing some sort of game. "Okay, let's play predator and prey," one of the older girls announced, her voice carrying a note of excitement that made Zax Leary's antennae twitch beneath his holographic disguise. The alien researcher leaned in, his interest piqued by the game's name. The children quickly divided themselves into 2 teams, the predators and the prey. The prey were given a head start to hide or run, while the predators counted loudly, building anticipation. 8, 9, 10. "Ready or not, here we come," the predator team called out, and the chase began. Zax Leary watched in amazement as the children darted across the playground, the predators pursuing the prey with surprising strategy and coordination. They called out to each other, sharing information about sightings, and working together to corner their quarry. The prey, for their part, displayed remarkable agility and cunning, using the playground equipment to evade capture. What struck the alien observer most was the sheer joy on the faces of all participants, regardless of their role in the game. Even when caught, the prey would laugh and immediately switch sides, becoming predators themselves. It was a far cry from the life-or-death struggles that had shaped humanity's evolutionary path, yet the echoes of that heritage were undeniable. As the morning progressed, Zaxxlery observed a variety of games and interactions. Some were clearly competitive, like races and contests of strength or skill. Others were more cooperative, with children working together to build elaborate structures in the sandbox or create imaginary worlds in quiet corners of the playground. As he prepared his notes for transmission back to his superiors, Zaxxlery found himself eagerly anticipating the next phase of his research. Tomorrow, he would turn his attention to adult humans, seeking to understand how these childhood lessons and innate instincts manifested in mature members of the species. The mystery of humanity was far from solved, but with each passing day, Zaxxlery felt he was getting closer to unraveling the complex tapestry of a species that had managed to transform its predatory heritage into a force for creativity, cooperation, and growth. Adult interactions. As the first light of dawn painted the sky, Zaxxlery found himself in downtown Millbrook, ready to observe adult humans in their natural habitat. The alien researcher, still maintaining his Dr. Zachary Lee disguise, positioned himself at a busy cafe, a vantage point that offered a clear view of the morning rush. The streets came alive as humans hurried to their various destinations. Zaxxlery was struck by the purposeful energy that seemed to drive each individual. There was a focused intensity in their movements that reminded him of predators on the hunt, yet their quarry was not flesh and blood, but abstract concepts like success and productivity. Inside the cafe, Zaxxlery observed a microcosm of human social dynamics. People cooed for their morning beverages, a process that seemed to require its own set of unspoken rules. He watched as one man, clearly in a hurry, attempted to cut in line. The reaction was subtle but immediate. A chorus of disapproving glances and cleared throats that caused the would-be line jumper to sheepishly return to his proper place. Fascinating, Zaxxlery muttered to himself. They enforce social norms without resorting to physical confrontation. As the morning wore on, the alien researcher made his way to Millbrook's business district. Here, he witnessed humans engaged in what they called work, a concept that seemed to be a sublimation of their predatory instincts into socially productive activities. In one office building, Zaxxlery observed a group meeting through large glass windows. The dynamics. Adult interactions. In one office building, Zaxxlery observed a group meeting through large glass windows. The dynamics within the room were a complex dance of dominance and submission, but expressed through words and body language rather than physical force. One individual, presumably the leader, stood at the head of the table, gesturing animatedly as they spoke. Others around the table displayed varying levels of engagement, some leaning forward eagerly, others slouching back with crossed arms. It's like a pack hierarchy, Zaxxlery mused, but with the potential for fluidity and change based on ideas rather than mere physical prowess. As he continued his observations throughout the day, Zaxxlery noticed numerous subtle behaviors that hinted at humanity's predatory past. In a local park, he watched joggers and cyclists, their rhythmic movements reminiscent of persistence hunters of old. At a bustling farmer's market, he observed the intense focus with which people examined and selected their produce, an echo of ancient foraging behaviors. But it was in a local courtroom where Zaxxlery found perhaps the most intriguing transformation of humanity's predatory instincts. Here, conflicts that might once have been settled through violence were instead resolved through a complex system of laws, evidence, and argumentation. Lawyers, like the most skilled hunters, used words as their weapons, attempting to outmaneuver each other in a battle of wits and rhetoric. As the day progressed, Zaxxlery found himself in a local gym, observing humans engaged in various physical activities. The alien researcher was struck by the intensity with which many approached their workouts. In one corner, individuals punched and kicked at hanging bags, their faces set in fierce determination. In another area, people lifted heavy weights, straining against gravity in a display of raw power. They simulate the physical demands of hunting and combat, Leary realized, but channel it into personal development rather than violence. However, it was a group fitness class that truly captured Leary's attention. Here, humans moved in synchronization, following the instructions of a leader. They pushed their bodies to the limit, encouraging each other with shouts and cheers. The alien observer was reminded of pack animals working together during a hunt, but transformed into a cooperative activity focused on mutual improvement rather than bringing down prey. As evening fell, Leary made his way to a popular restaurant, eager to observe humans in a more relaxed social setting. The atmosphere was lively, filled with chatter and laughter. Groups huddled around tables, sharing food and drinks in a manner that seemed almost ritualistic to the alien observer. One table, in particular, caught his attention. A group of colleagues, still dressed in their work attire, were engaged in what humans called networking. Leary listened intently to their conversation, noting how they exchanged information about job opportunities and industry trends. It struck him as a sophisticated form of resource sharing and alliance building, behaviors that in many species were deeply tied to survival instincts. They've taken the cooperative aspects of pack hunting, Leary thought, and applied them to their professional lives. As the night wore on, the restaurant's atmosphere shifted. The lighting dimmed, and the music changed to a slower, more rhythmic beat. Leary observed as some humans paired off, moving to a cleared area to engage in dancing. The alien researcher watched, fascinated, as couples moved in close synchronization, their bodies swaying to the music. Another transformation of primal instincts, Leary noted. Courtship behaviors that once might have been displays of hunting prowess, now expressed through rhythm and grace. Leaving the restaurant, Leary found himself walking through a quiet residential neighborhood. Here, he observed yet another aspect of human behavior, the creation of safe, comfortable spaces for rest and family bonding. Lights glowed warmly in windows, and occasionally he could hear the sounds of laughter or muted conversations. This, perhaps, was the most profound realization of the day. Humans, despite their predatory heritage, had created a society where periods of intense activity were balanced with times of peace and relaxation. They had not abandoned their instincts, but rather had found ways to satisfy them that contributed to, rather than detracted from, the overall stability of their society. As Leary made his way back to his hidden ship, his mind was awhirl with new insights. Adult humans, it seemed, had found myriad ways to channel their predatory instincts into productive, even creative outlets. From the intensity of their work ethic to the complexities of their legal system, from their fitness routines to their social gatherings, humans constantly demonstrated their ability to transform potentially destructive impulses into forces for personal and societal growth. Yet, as he prepared his notes for transmission back to the Galactic Council, Leary couldn't shake a lingering question. If humans had so successfully adapted their predatory nature to peaceful pursuits, how would they react in a true crisis? Would their carefully constructed social norms hold, or would more primordial instincts resurface? Little did Leary know, events were already in motion that would put humanity to the test, forcing them to confront their ancient instincts in ways they had not faced in generations. As he settled in for the night, the alien researcher had no idea that tomorrow would bring challenges that would reveal the true nature of humanity's relationship with its predatory past. Crisis and response. The day dawned like any other in Millbrook, but there was an undercurrent of tension in the air that even Leary, an alien observer, could sense. As he made his way into town, he noticed increased activity around the local emergency services building. Humans in uniforms rushed about with a sense of urgency that piqued the xenoanthropologist's interest. Zach Leary's attention was drawn to a large screen mounted on the side of a building in the town square. A human news anchor's face filled the screen, her expression grave as she delivered a troubling report. Reports of a rapidly spreading forest fire approaching Millbrook from the north. Authorities are urging residents in the affected areas to prepare for possible evacuation. The alien researcher watched as the information rippled through the gathered crowd. There was fear, certainly, but also a palpable sense of determination. Humans began to move with purpose, some heading to their homes, others toward the emergency services building. Zach Leary followed a group to the town hall, where local leaders were already organizing a response. He marveled at the speed and efficiency with which humans adapted to the crisis. What had been a quiet government building just hours ago was now a hive of activity, humans moving with the coordinated precision of a pack on the hunt. "We need volunteers for the fire breaks," one official announced. "Anyone with experience operating heavy machinery, please report to the North Quarry." "Medical personnel, we're setting up triage at the high school gym," another called out. "Anyone with first aid training, you're needed too." Zach Leary watched as humans quickly sorted themselves into teams, each taking on specific roles in the crisis response. It reminded him of the way predator species on other worlds would organize for a complex hunt, each member of the pack knowing their part in the greater strategy. As the day progressed, the situation grew more dire. The fire, driven by strong winds, was advancing faster than anticipated. Zach Leary observed as the human leaders adapted their plans, making quick decisions based on rapidly changing information. "We need to evacuate the northern subdivision now," the fire chief announced, her voice tense but controlled. "Police, coordinate with transit. I want those buses rolling in 10 minutes." Zach Leary followed the evacuation efforts, watching as humans worked tirelessly to ensure their fellow species members were safe. He saw acts of bravery and selflessness that challenged his preconceptions about predator species. Firefighters rushed into smoke-filled buildings to rescue trapped residents. Neighbors helped. Crisis and response. Zach Leary followed the evacuation efforts, watching as humans worked tirelessly to ensure their fellow species members were safe. He saw acts of bravery and selflessness that challenged his preconceptions about predator species. Firefighters rushed into smoke-filled buildings to rescue trapped residents. Neighbors helped elderly community members pack essential belongings and guided them to safety. What struck the alien observer most was the way humans seemed to become more cohesive under pressure. The social boundaries he had noted in his earlier observations, divisions of class, profession, or social status, seemed to dissolve in the face of the common threat. Everyone had a role to play, and each contribution was valued. As night fell, the sky glowed an ominous orange. The fire had reached the outskirts of Millbrook, and the fight to save the town was now in full force. Zach Leary positioned himself near the command center, eager to observe how humans would react as the crisis reached its peak. He didn't have to wait long. A sudden shift in the wind sent a wall of flame surging towards a group of houses that hadn't yet been evacuated. Without hesitation, a team of firefighters rushed towards the danger. Zach Leary watched, heart racing, as the humans battled the blaze with a coordination and fearlessness that reminded him of apex predators facing down a rival. But it wasn't just the professionals who rose to the occasion. Zach Leary observed as ordinary citizens formed bucket brigades, passing water from hand to douse spot fires. Others used garden hoses and even blankets to beat back flames threatening their neighbors' homes. The alien researcher was reminded of the cooperative hunting behaviors he had studied in Earth's ancient hunter-gatherer societies, now transformed into a collective fight for survival against a non-sentient but equally deadly foe. In the early hours of the morning, Zach Leary found himself at the high school gymnasium, which had been converted into an emergency shelter. Here, he witnessed yet another facet of human nature. Despite their exhaustion and fear, the evacuees were organizing themselves, comforting children, sharing supplies, and even planning how to help those who had lost everything to the fire. One conversation, in particular, caught his attention. A group of local business owners were already discussing how to rebuild not just their own enterprises, but the community as a whole. "We'll set up a fund," one woman said firmly. "For those who were uninsured or underinsured, no one gets left behind." The others nodded in agreement, and Zax Leary marveled at their resilience. Even in the midst of crisis, they were planning for the future, their instinct to protect the pack extending beyond immediate survival to long-term recovery. As dawn broke, news finally came that the fire was contained. The town had suffered damage, but thanks to the heroic efforts of firefighters and citizens alike, Millbrook had been saved from total destruction. The relief was palpable, but there was no rest for the weary. Immediately, humans began organizing recovery efforts, transitioning seamlessly from crisis response to rebuilding. Zax Leary spent the next few days observing this process, fascinated by the way humans channeled their energy into positive action. He watched as they cleared debris, rebuilt homes, and supported those who had lost everything. The alien researcher noted how the community seemed to have grown stronger through adversity, their bonds reinforced by shared struggle and triumph. One afternoon, as volunteers worked to replant trees in a scorched park, Zax Leary overheard a conversation that gave him pause. "You know," one man said, wiping sweat from his brow, "I never thought I had it in me to face down a wall of fire. But when I saw my neighbors in danger, something just clicked. It was like every instinct in my body was screaming at me to protect them." His companion nodded in agreement. "I know what you mean. It's like we tapped into something primal, but in a good way. We became a tribe, all working together to survive." Zax Leary pondered these words deeply. The crisis had indeed brought out something primal in the humans, but it wasn't the mindless aggression or selfish violence that many in the galactic community feared from predator species. Instead, their predatory instincts had manifested as courage, teamwork, and an unwavering drive to protect their community. As he prepared his final report for the Galactic Council, Zax Leary realized that he had witnessed something truly remarkable. Humanity had not abandoned its predatory nature. Rather, they had evolved it into something more. Their instincts to hunt had become instincts to protect. Their pack mentality had expanded to encompass entire communities, even their whole species. The fire had tested Millbrook, and by extension, humanity itself. In rising to meet this challenge, they had demonstrated that their predatory heritage, far from being a liability, could be a source of strength, courage, and unity when properly channeled. Zax Leary knew that his findings would challenge many preconceptions in the galactic community. Humanity's unique blend of instinct and intellect, of primal drive and higher reasoning, made them unlike any species the Galactic Council had encountered before. As he finalized his notes, the alien researcher found himself excited by the implications of his discoveries, not just for humanity's place in the galaxy, but for the potential evolution of all sentient species. With a mix of anticipation and trepidation, Zax Leary prepared to present his conclusions to his superiors. The next phase of his mission would involve synthesizing all he had learned about humanity, from the playful games of children to the heroic actions of adults in crisis, into a coherent picture of a species on the brink of a new evolutionary frontier. As he looked out over the rebuilding town of Millbrook, Zax Leary couldn't help but feel that he had witnessed the dawn of something truly extraordinary in the annals of galactic history. Conclusions and revelations. Zax Leary stood before the Galactic Council, his form shimmering slightly as the holographic projection adjusted to the Grand Chamber's lighting. The semicircle of diverse alien beings before him represented the leadership of hundreds of spacefaring civilizations, all eager to hear his findings on humanity's true nature. Esteemed members of the Council, Zax Leary began, his voice steady despite his inner nervousness. "I come before you today to present my conclusions on the human species, and I must warn you, my findings may challenge many of our preconceptions about predator species and their place in galactic society." A murmur rippled through the assembled counselors. Zax Leary took a deep breath and continued. Humans are, without doubt, descended from predators. Their physical form, their sensory capabilities, and many of their instincts all point to a hunting heritage. However, what I observed during my time on Earth was not a species enslaved by their predatory nature, but one that has transformed it into something extraordinary. Zax Leary proceeded to detail his observations from the playground games that taught empathy and cooperation alongside hunting skills to the complex social structures that channeled competitive instincts into productive endeavors. He described the crisis he had witnessed and how the humans had united in the face of danger, their predatory instincts manifesting as protection and sacrifice rather than aggression. In essence, Zax Leary concluded, humans have not suppressed their predatory nature, but evolved it. They've taken the drive to hunt and transformed it into a drive to achieve, to protect, to explore. Their pack mentality has expanded to encompass their entire species and potentially, given the chance, all sentient life. The council chamber was silent for a long moment as the assembled beings processed this information. Finally, one of the eldest members, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure, spoke. Conclusions and revelations. Zax Leary stood before the Galactic Council, his form shimmering slightly as the holographic projection adjusted to the Grand Chamber's lighting. The semicircle of diverse alien beings before him represented the leadership of hundreds of spacefaring civilizations, all eager to hear his findings on humanity's true nature. Esteemed members of the Council, Zax Leary began, his voice steady despite his inner nervousness. I come before you today to present my conclusions on the human species, and I must warn you, my findings may challenge many of our preconceptions about predator species and their place in galactic society. A murmur rippled through the assembled counselors. Zax Leary took a deep breath and continued. Humans are, without doubt, descended from predators. Their physical form, their sensory capabilities, and many of their instincts all point to a hunting heritage. However, what I observed during my time on Earth was not a species enslaved by their predatory nature, but one that has transformed it into something extraordinary. Zax Leary proceeded to detail his observations from the playground games that taught empathy and cooperation alongside hunting skills to the complex social structures that channeled competitive instincts into productive endeavors. He described the crisis he had witnessed and how the humans had united in the face of danger, their predatory instincts manifesting as protection and sacrifice rather than aggression. In essence, Zax Leary concluded, humans have not suppressed their predatory nature, but evolved it. They've taken the drive to hunt and transformed it into a drive to achieve, to protect, to explore. Their pack mentality has expanded to encompass their entire species and potentially, given the chance, all sentient life. The council chamber was silent for a long moment as the assembled beings processed this information. Finally, one of the eldest members, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure, spoke. This is most unexpected, researcher Zax Leary. If what you say is true, it could revolutionize our understanding of evolutionary psychology across all species. But it also raises concerns. A species with the instincts of a predator and the unity of a global pack. Some might see this as a significant threat. Zax Leary nodded, acknowledging the concern. I understand, Counselor. But I would argue that this very combination is what makes humanity not a threat, but a potentially invaluable ally. Their predatory instincts drive them to face challenges head-on, to push boundaries, to explore. But their evolved pack mentality means they do this not just for themselves, but for the betterment of all. He paused, gathering his thoughts before continuing. During my time on Earth, I saw humans of all ages playing out hunting scenarios, yes, but these games always had rules, always had boundaries. They were constantly learning to balance their instincts with reason, to channel their drives into constructive outcomes. In their crisis response, I saw a species capable of incredible bravery and selflessness, using their predatory intensity to protect rather than destroy. Another counselor, a methane-breathing entity with multiple eye stalks, waved a tentacle for attention. But what of their history? We know they've engaged in warfare, in conquest. How can we be sure they've truly moved beyond this? Zaxleary nodded, having anticipated this question. Humans are indeed capable of great violence, and their history is marked by conflict. But it's precisely this capacity, combined with their remarkable ability to learn and adapt, that has driven them to develop complex systems of law, diplomacy, and cooperation. They understand the destructive potential of their nature better than we ever could, and they work constantly to channel it positively. He brought up a series of images on the chamber's main display. Children playing cooperatively, adults engaged in sports and academic pursuits, the community of Millbrook coming together to face the wildfire. Humans play out their predatory instincts in safe, controlled ways from childhood. They create art that explores the duality of their nature. They build societies that challenge them to be their best selves. And when faced with a true threat, they come together with a unity and purpose that is awe-inspiring to behold. Zaxleary's voice grew passionate as he continued. But perhaps most importantly, humans are aware of their predatory heritage. They don't deny it or try to suppress it entirely. Instead, they acknowledge it, study it, and continuously work to channel it productively. This self-awareness, I believe, is their greatest strength and the key to their potential as members of the galactic community. The council chamber buzzed with discussion as the members debated the implications of Zaxleary's findings. After what seemed like an eternity to the anxious researcher, the head of the council, a being of ancient wisdom from one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, raised a hand for silence. Researcher Zaxleary, your findings are both fascinating and concerning. You've presented us with a picture of a species unlike any we've encountered before, a predator species with the potential for great destruction, yet also capable of remarkable cooperation and self-reflection. The question before us now is, how do we proceed? Zaxleary straightened, feeling the weight of the moment. Honorable counselors, I believe we have an unprecedented opportunity before us. Humanity stands at a crucial juncture in its development. They are reaching for the stars, driven by the same instincts that once drove them to explore every corner of their world. They are predators, yes, but predators who have learned to turn their hunt into a search for knowledge, for connection, for a greater understanding of the universe. He paused, looking each council member in the eye before continuing. I propose that we cautiously welcome humanity into the galactic community, not with fear or suspicion, but with hope and guidance. Their unique perspective, their drive to explore and protect, their ability to unite in the face of adversity. These could be invaluable assets to our community. Moreover, by embracing humanity, we open ourselves to new ways of thinking about our own evolutionary paths. The council chamber erupted in discussion once more. Zaxleary waited, his heart racing as the fate of humanity's galactic future hung in the balance. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the council head raised a hand for silence once more. Researcher Zaxleary, your arguments are compelling. While concerns remain, we agree that humanity's potential outweighs the perceived risks. We will proceed with opening diplomatic channels, with you as our primary liaison. As the council session concluded and plans were made for humanity's introduction to the wider galactic community, Zaxleary felt a sense of both relief and excitement. He had not only completed his mission but had potentially changed the course of galactic history. As he prepared for his return to Earth, this time as an official emissary, Zaxleary reflected on all he had learned. Humanity, with its complex blend of predatory instinct and higher reasoning, of individual drive and collective cooperation, represented something truly unique in the galaxy. They were not simply predators who had learned to behave, but a species that had transformed their very nature into a force for growth, protection, and exploration. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with cultural misunderstandings and moments of tension. But Zaxleary was confident that humanity's remarkable adaptability and their evolved predatory instincts, now focused on overcoming challenges and protecting their extended pack, would see them through. As his ship prepared for the journey back to Earth, Zach looked out at the star-filled expanse of space. Somewhere out there, humanity was looking back, their predatory eyes now filled with curiosity and wonder rather than hunger. The galaxy was about to change, and Zach couldn't wait to see what these remarkable creatures would do next.